I have been speaking nationally. I've been going all over the United States and talking about what we're talking about today, which is United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. This is the agenda for the 21st century. Now, when people say to you, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're out of your mind, what are you talking about, Area 51 or a Catch-22 or what the heck? You know, you say, hey, no. Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century. It was called that by the United Nations. And oftentimes you'll hear these terms, Club of Rome, CFR, they sound kind of crazy. That is not because we are crazy. This is not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. So, okay, so I've been talking to 9/12 groups, I've been talking to Tea Party groups, property rights groups all over the United States, and you are the stewards of your land and water. That is what we all know, that we are the protectors of our land and water. So I want to tell you a little bit about me. I'm a liberal Democrat, pro-choice, yes, that's right, pro-choice, anti-war. I'm a feminist, I'm pro-gay rights, I am a lesbian, and proud of it. I'm a native Californian. In some places, that's the thing that causes the tomatoes to come out. I graduated from UCLA, and I am a commercial real estate appraiser. My specialty is eminent domain valuation. I've been an appraiser for 28 years, and I do large commercial valuation. And about 10 years ago, I recognized that there was a planning revolution going on in our country, a planning revolution. And at first I thought it was just local, and then I looked beyond and I saw that not only was it in the San Francisco area where I live, but it was across California and in fact across the entire United States of America. This is happening everywhere. Everything that I'm going to be talking about is a fact. I am a forensic appraiser, I testify, I'm a litigation support person, and I'm an expert witness. So everything that I talk about, I have to have the facts to support, or I just can't say it. So everything that we're talking about is supportable by fact. I have plenty of support for it in my book, and of course Orlean's got it in hers, and then you can find it on the internet in the source documents. So basically what we're talking about here is the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. This is the agenda for the 21st century. It's sustainable development, and it justifies and enables the breakdown of our economy, the redesign of our cities and our towns across our country, our loss of industry, of agriculture and food independence, and ultimately the loss of our sovereignty. And you know, private property ultimately devolves to your body. That is your ultimate private property. Those private property rights refer to you, your body. So this is one thing that we are losing, not just our sovereignty over our cities and our towns and our county and our state and our nation, but our sovereignty over our persons. So this is social engineering, and it glorifies the new poverty. And we'll be talking about that. In fact, it's not what is United Nations Agenda 21, it's what isn't. And you're going to have to look long and hard to find anything that is not United Nations Agenda 21 anymore. It needs to go up. Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Should I take my jacket off? No. Well, I don't know. This is, you know, it never works out, the vocal thing, but you're just going to have to pay attention. And what can I say? It's not perfect, okay? So, here it is. As I said, the conspiracy theory, those days are over. The green mask is off, and behind it is United Nations Agenda 21. No matter how small your town, no matter how remote you think you are, no matter how large your city, United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, is impacting you right now. It's not, is it coming to our town? It is here. It's in your town right now. So I'm here to show you what's behind the green mask, how to identify it, because it doesn't come with flashing lights and it doesn't come with labels. You've got to be able to identify it. And we're going to go right from the big picture right down to your living room, because if you can't recognize it, you can't resist it. And awareness is the first step in the resistance. So I'm going to talk now about, there's an overarching political and social philosophy behind United Nations Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century, sustainable development, smart growth, and that is communitarianism. Now, what communitarianism says is that the individual's rights need to be balanced with the rights of the community. Now, when you think about that, of course we have a constitution that protects our individual rights. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And those are our unalienable rights, cannot be taken away from us, are not granted to us by governments. We were born with those rights. But communitarianism says the rights of the community come above the rights of the individual. They should be balanced with the rights of the individual. And in that balancing act, the individual rights are like a feather and the community rights are like a brick. So you say, well, what are community rights? What rights does the community have? I mean, we know we've got our written rights in our Constitution, our individual rights. Where do I find the community's rights? Well, those rights are written somewhere. Those rights are found nowhere. Those rights change at any time. Those are the global community rights. And those rights come beyond the rights of the individual. You are a threat to the community, the global community. So when you think about this, I use this image a lot, and some of you have seen me do this. It's when you think about it, you think of a couple of clear glasses, right? In one, you're going to balance these, okay? One is a clear glass of water, and that is your constitutional republic. That's what we have here in the United States, a constitutional republic, right? Then you've got a clear glass of milk. That is a communitarian state. Let's say it's Nazi Germany. It's Red China. It's the Soviet Russia. Okay? You're going to take these, you're going to get a clear glass pitcher, put it down here, and you're going to balance the rights of the constitutional republic with the rights of the communitarian state. What do you have? You got milk. Got milk. You have lost the individual's rights. They are subsumed into the rights of the community. And those rights can change at any time, and they are changing. You have a balance. The new way, the third way, you'll see that. The third way, that is the left's supposed answer to the Tea Party. So I'm going to use a journalistic framework: who, what, why, where, how, and when. And we're going to start with why. And you know why. It's global warming. That's right. In fact, it's climate change. Or let's see. No, it's climate. Something like that. It's danger. Oh, it's serious. We're in deep trouble. We are. Panic. Loss of biodiversity. Loss of animal rights, yeah, you're cute. Okay, no, extinction, total destruction, seas are warming and rising and things are falling apart. No, this is really serious, we gotta do something now. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Okay, the UN to the rescue. On their ponies. The UN oh no, they're on their bike. The UN is gonna save the planet. And, okay, so how did this come about? In 1987, there was the World Commission on Environment and Development. It was called the Brundtland Commission, 1987, and they put out something called Our Common Future, and it defined sustainable development. Now, of course, everybody's heard about sustainable development now, but this is where it came from, this definition. Now you got sustainable coffee pots, right? Everything's sustainable now. That's the buzzword jargon. In fact, you got to know that some of the best public relations people in the world are working on this jargon just for you. So here we go. We've got sustainable development. That is development that meets the needs of the present. without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Well, all it took after that was to state that yes, what we're doing now is a threat to future generations. And now let's see what we're going to do about it. All that remained was to see what we were going to do about our big threat to the future generations of the world. How did they determine what that is? Well, it's easy. You're experiencing it right now, aren't you? So in 1992, that same commission came back and they had the answer. It was United Nations Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century. It was, how are we going to ensure that sustainable development is instated all across the world? The chairman, Maurice Strong, said that the middle class lifestyle, that's our lifestyle, we're still hanging on to it with our fingernails here. The middle class lifestyle is unsustainable. What is that? That's single family residences, private vehicles, appliances, air conditioning, meat eating. You've got golf. You like to golf? Dams, as we saw. And this is clean hydroelectric power we're talking about, but that is not sustainable. It needs to come down, and that's why those dams are coming down all over the United States. This is the 3 E's, okay, and Orlene talked about it. I've got an image of it in my book, and you may not be able to see this, but this is the logo of United Nations Agenda 21. She had it up on the screen. It's the 3 circles. It looks kind of like a piece of the Olympic, the Olympic logo. And it is social equity, environment, and economy. When all of these are in balance, supposedly you have sustainable development potential. And this is a whole life plan. It impacts economics, housing, transportation, land use, health, water, energy, food production, and population control. There's a philosophical basis behind all of this, and this is real important to know about. This is principle number 15 from United Nations Agenda 21. The reason you need to know about it is because it is their justification for everything that's happening to you right now. Okay, and it says that it's the precautionary principle. You heard of that? Precautionary principle. It states that if an action or policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or to the environment, in the absence of scientific consensus, the burden of proof that it is not harmful falls on the party taking the action. Now, what does that mean? Global warming, climate change. Hey, if there is no scientific consensus, you've got to prove that it's not having an impact. Yeah, that's right. That's a pretty big one. This is very important, and this is the precautionary principle. Now, I'll tell you what. In the EU, in the European Union, this is law. In the United States, we call it the precautionary approach, and it is not law, but it is making policy for you right now. So you're guilty until proven innocent, right? And this is how they roll now. Okay, so this is a global plan. It's implemented locally, and as Orlene told you, in 1992. George H.W. Bush, along with 178 other leaders, signed on to it. It is soft law. It's not a treaty. It did not have to be ratified by your Senate. They didn't ask you about it, did they? In '93, when Clinton took office, he took office in January, and 6 months later, he created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. It had 12 cabinet-level secretaries on it. They included energy, transportation, defense. There were also captains of industry on that, including Ken Lay from Enron. They had the Sierra Club was represented. The Natural Resources Defense Council was on there. What was the first thing they did? They gave a multi-million-dollar grant to the American Planning Association. This is a private group. They said, hey, we want to make sure we know that we could get Agenda 21 into every community in the United States administratively, we don't need to get the people on board with this. We've got all the cabinet level secretaries on here, we got education, we got it all. We can just put it in here and people are just going to wake up one day and their world is going to be transformed. Transformation, that's a big word, big jargon word. Okay? But they said, no, we really want to do this legally. Remember, Hitler didn't break any laws. Everything he did was legal. So, what did they do? They paid the American Planning Association to come up with a planning document that would be in every single planning department in the entire United States. Every university, every college, you want to be a planner, you want to be a transportation planner, you want to be an urban planner, you are going to study this book. It is called Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Now don't worry if you didn't write that down, it's all in my book, and look at this book. It's not that long. Everything is in here. It's a great book. And you know, when people sell their books, I always get a little annoyed. It's like, all right. But this book is basically a gift to you. I'm selling it for about what it cost me to produce it, and it's because I can't talk fast enough. So the information is in here. It's a great, very easy to read book. Interesting. It's kind of fun, even though it's horrible. It's like a nightmare. But, okay. So, Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook. Let's think about this. Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Now, there's a lot in that title, right? First of all, smart growth, that's where smart growth comes from. Growing smart. Smart growth comes from that. And we got model statutes in there. You think these people who are your council people, who are your supervisors, came up with those ordinances themselves? Oh no, where did they come from? They came from Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook. And by the way, that little management of change that comes, change. Now that is jargon. Now that photograph of Obama with the change underneath, the kind of the deification with the lights behind him and the whole thing. Okay. That, now to us, and I am a liberal Democrat, I am not lying about that, that's true. I do, now I haven't left the party mainly to annoy them. But, yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, this is so ridiculous. I've been so attacked. I mean, really, it's awful, it's terrible. It's actually great, I love it. They are so stupid. But in fact, the Democratic Central Committee of Virginia just sent out an email, and they said, that Rosa KOIRE, she's not really a Democrat. She's just pretending to be a Democrat because the Tea Party likes it. And she's really unscrupulous, and you know that thing she's talking about, don't worry about that. That United Nations, no, don't worry about that. We'll tell you if there's anything to worry. I said, you know what? I've been a Democrat since 1974. I sent this to them, to the Central Committee, right? To the chair. I said, I have been a Democrat since 1974, and I am engaged in spending my life telling the truth about United Nations Agenda 21 to this nation. And if you continue to libel me, I will sue you and sue the Democratic Central Committee of Virginia. You know, we don't stand for this in our country. I may not agree with you, or you may not agree with me on all of those social issues, and that's why I told you where I'm at on that, because we are Americans, and our nation is worth fighting for. And this is something we need to do together. This is a non-partisan issue, and I mean that with every fiber of my being. It's like somebody emailed me not that long ago, and she said, hey, Rosa, I don't agree with you on anything, I don't think, except fighting United Nations Agenda 21. She said, let's kick Agenda 21 out, and then we can fight about the other stuff later. I said, yeah, that sounds good. So, okay, so they figured they could, you know, so they did it, okay? They did it. They got it into every single planning department in the United States, and it was took them a few years to write it. And by 2002, which was when I realized there was a planning revolution going on, that was when it had gotten into every planning department in the United States by 2002. So, okay, now they got that handled, right? They got your general plans handled. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. They got your land use handled. They've got your transportation handled. But they're like, we don't want a revolution, because revolution is bad for business. And this is a huge corporate plan. Okay? This is about a corporatocracy taking over your country. Public-private partnership, I must differ with you just briefly in saying that it is not that government is taking over corporations. It is the opposite. It is that corporations are taking over your government. That's what's happening. So, okay, so they said, okay, we know this plan's going to be unpopular. People aren't going to really be digging this when they realize that they've lost all of their private property rights, where they can't do anything with their land and they're not being paid, where they're being restricted in where they can live and how they live and what they eat and what their kids learn, and in every possible way that you can impact people. So they said, we know this isn't going to be popular. So what did the President's Council on Sustainable Development do? I'm making this up, but they must have paid some big bucks to some big public relations firm to come up with Sustainable America, a New Consensus. Now, you saw that book. You can get it on Amazon. I wouldn't throw the money down the toilet. Actually, it's not a bad idea, though, because you get a look at their rhetoric machine really revved up there. So what was that? Sustainable Development, a New Consensus. Now, if you're like me, and you're not, but you might be. You're an old feminist, right? I come out of the old feminist tradition, which is, you get a bunch of women in a room, you're going to decide whether you're going to take an action or not. You get a bunch of women in a room, and you put a premise up there, we're going to go do something. And then you sit in that room for 10 hours, and you fight it out. Everybody gets a voice. Everyone says what they want to say about it until you all come to an agreement. Consensus is agreement of all parties, right? That's the real definition of consensus. But no, we've got a new definition of consensus. We've got Sustainable America, a New Consensus. The new consensus, neutralization of the opposition, neutralizing your enemies. Now, when you get Delphi'd, the Delphi technique is a Rand Corporation technique. It is a mind control technique. It is being used on you every day. Delphi can be done on one person or the whole world, and it is being used right now. Every time you go to a visioning meeting, every time you get asked your opinion on a plan that is predetermined, pre-created, every little paper is, that's where you see everybody's smiling, riding bikes, the sky's always blue, every vibrant, walkable, bikeable, yeah. That's cool. 2050, these people have nothing to do up there. They're going to be out to 3,000 pretty soon, the year 3000, because these planners have nothing to do, and they're still hiring consultants. Okay? What the heck are they doing besides telling you, no, you can't use your property? Okay, so this is what's happening. We've got two things together now. We've got our plans, and we've got the way that they're going to get you to accept them, because Delphi says that we are going to make it so that you think it's your idea. Yeah. That's right. You think you came up with it. We asked your opinion. Come on down. We want you at our meeting. We want to hear what you have to say about the new center of your city. Smart growth, okay? So just in case you guys might still possibly think I'm making this up, here we go. We have Rescue Mission, Planet Earth, a children's edition of Agenda 21. Now this is by Boutros Ghali, you know who he is? Secretary General of the United Nations and the Children of the World. This is a child's edition of Agenda 21. And children are becoming neurotic. Hey, people are, I'm sure you're being drugged. How else are they going to get this to you? They're drugging you. They're convincing you it's your idea. They're attacking you and maligning you if you happen to speak out against it. They've got many ways to stop you. No yawning. Okay, here we go. Now, this is what it says here. I've had this thing for a while. I just finally looked at it. The cover was bad enough. Okay, so it says, this is for parents and educators. It says, turning Agenda 21 into action is a big challenge for us all. Thousands of people at the United Nations and in governments are working on it. This booklet will show parents and educators how children can be part of this work. Yeah, that's right. What year did they publish this thing? I don't know. It's 94. It's been out there for a while. Okay, so let's see. Now.
Can you pass that around?
No. Okay. You have to wait. I don't want anything distracting anybody. All eyes on me. You notice I don't do a PowerPoint? It's not totally because I'm technologically incompetent. It's because I want you totally focused here. Okay, so now we got the Y, greenhouse gas emissions. Don't exhale. How are we going to handle this terrible problem that we got? We're going to bring the people out of the rural and suburban areas into the center cities, okay? And we're going to put them in smart growth. What is smart growth? It is ground floor retail, 12 feet high, built to the edge of the sidewalk, 2 stories or more of residential condos or apartments above that, built on a main street, alley behind for your one-car parking, often bankrupt, often vacant, often paid for with your property tax dollars. Redevelopment is a funding and implementation arm for United Nations Agenda 21, and it is the vampire that never dies. And we're just going up before the Supreme Court of California right now on that case, and we'll see how they determine it on 26 and 27. You don't know what I'm talking about, but you should. Okay, but I'll talk about it in a minute. Now, ICLEI. ICLEI is, or it was, it is and it was, it is the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives, except that, as Orlean said, they don't want you to know, since you're waking up, that it's international. So now it's ICLEI, those monolithic letters standing for nothing. Local governments for sustainability. Local governments for sustainability. Now, it is a non-governmental organization, but it's made up of local government officials. Now, in our great country, my dad's a lawyer, he said, you know what, every law represents a lawsuit. So, of course, we've got the Brown Act here, and in other places, and that says that you've got open government. Your government officials cannot get together, supposedly, behind closed doors legally, and make law, without you being there, seeing it. That is, you're entitled to be there. That's transparency, right? Okay, now, you've got a non-governmental organization making policy for you, made up of local government officials, elected officials, and you're not in the room. You don't know that they're doing it, and you are not privy to it. Now, there's 20 pages in the back of my book on what you can do, and I definitely encourage you to look at that. One of the things you can do, of course, is you can do a public records, in California, you do a Public Records Act and a request, and you find out everything you can from your government about ICLEI. Their contracts with ICLEI, what they've received from ICLEI, and I have, on my website, I have examples of that. In fact, as Orlean said, one of our Sonoma County commissioners, supervisors, Valerie Brown, is on the National Board of ICLEI. I reported her to the Fair Political Practices Commission, FPPC, because she awarded a no-bid $83,000 contract to ICLEI to have them do greenhouse gas monitoring. This is what they do. They monitor your greenhouse gas emissions for a fee. I reported her, and they declined to investigate. But, yeah, okay, they want you out of the rural and suburban areas. This is a brilliant plan. They're very, very good at doing this. ICLEI is worldwide. It says, they say they represent 600 million people, and if you heard of them, it was just recently. Did you know, and I know my time is short, but I am going to tell you, because you need to know this, I am going to read to you the 35 Southern California members of ICLEI: Aliso Viejo, Beverly Hills, Carpinteria, Chula Vista, Covina, Culver City, Del Mar, Encinitas, Fullerton, Glendale, Hermosa Beach, Irvine, Lakewood, La Mirada. Los Angeles County is huge, close to 7 million people. Moore Park, Murrieta, Palmdale, Palm Springs, Pasadena, Riverside, Redondo Beach, Rolling Hills Estate, San Clemente, San Diego, Santa Ana, Santa Barbara and Santa Barbara County, Santa Clarita, Santa Monica, Santee, Solana Beach, Southgate, Temecula, Ventura County, Vernon, and Vista. If I missed your city, don't worry, you're probably still being impacted. In fact, you are being impacted by ICLEI and this plan, because what they do is they measure your greenhouse gases and you make a commitment. So San Diego, the city of San Diego, if you live in San Diego, your city has made a commitment that you will reduce your greenhouse gas emissions by 15% below 1990 levels by 2010. I have not called them, but I suggest you do. If you live in San Diego, you ask them, have you met your greenhouse gas emissions goals? You check it out. Now listen, when Obama was running for office, he made a commitment. He made a campaign promise. He said, we will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in the United States by 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. Now, as I say, I'm a math person, and so I went and I found a chart, and I said, okay, I got this chart. 1850 to 2004, the greenhouse, this is the carbon dioxide emissions. Who knows if this is this is a good chart or not? I don't know. Were they testing then? I don't know. You had oxen, you were measuring it. Okay, whatever. Okay, 1850, all right? So now here's the line. It starts over here in 1850, and it's pretty low, right? Just ignore that. It's pretty low, and, there's not many emissions, right? And then around 1945, it starts to go up, right? And then it starts to go up a lot. Around 2004, it's pretty high. So I said, all right, let's find 1990, okay, and let's go 80% below 1990 levels. What year are you at?
NBC.
All right, forget about it. No, okay, you're at 1934. Now, you think we have more people than we had in 1934? You bet. That means we're going to have to be back in the 1800s. In the 1800s, you got your horse and buggy. You can't have a horse though, because livestock are a danger because they are big methane producers. That's right, that's right. So this is, okay, we're talking about communitarianism here, aren't we? This is communitarianism. We're going to tell you what's good for the community. The ends justify the means. This is consensus. It's secret. ICLEI has operated in secret for many years. You never knew that you were signed on to that. You've got a U.S. Conference of Mayors. It's also signed on to what? The Kyoto Treaty. Well, you say, I didn't think the United States ratified that treaty. Well, they didn't, but that didn't stop 1,054 United States mayors from signing on to it. That's right. And I said, now their thing is 7%. Everybody's got a different percentage. I mean, you just go crazy. It's irrelevant, right? The point is not about reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. It is you are being targeted to be removed from the rural and suburban areas. Okay, so the Kyoto Treaty, who cares what they said about that anyway? The country in Europe that had reduced their the country in the world that had reduced their greenhouse gas emissions the most since this Kyoto Treaty is Latvia. Latvia. It clings desperately to the edge of the former Soviet Union. They have the lowest, or I think it's the third lowest standard of living in Europe. They shut off their electricity in the winter. They also are known for having the worst human rights abuses in Europe. So what does that tell you? That tells you that if you have total control of your people, you're going to be able to conform to United Nations Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century, right? Now in California, we've got AB 32 and SB 375. AB 32, that's Assembly Bill 32, that was I think 2006, and it's for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and then SB Senate Bill 375, 2008, and that is anti-sprawl. Ooh, sprawl. Do you guys live on a 5,000 or more square foot lot in a single family residence? Go like this. Yeah, you are an endangered species. Forget about it. You know how they do it? People say to me, all right, Rosa, so how are they going to get me out of my house? And I'm like, okay, here you go. This is how they do it. This is how they do it. This is so evil. Well, if you live out in a rural area, let's start with that. If you live in Sonoma County, which is a rural, often, we live in rural areas. We live in a rural county, 1,384 miles, 1,384 miles of roads in Sonoma County. Our Sonoma County Board of Supervisors has just announced that they will only be paving and maintaining 150 miles of those rural roads. 150 miles of roads. Do you think, now I told you I'm an appraiser, and I don't do houses. I do the big stuff. Big ranches, big, shopping centers, office buildings. You think that's going to impact people's property value when they can't get to it? You think that's going to have an impact on your food independence when you can't get to your property, your rural property? How about all of those restrictions on your use? How about those streamside thresholds, those ridge corridors, those inland corridors, the oh my goodness, there's so many names for these things. They're all regulatory takings. They're all restrictions on your use without compensating you in any way. And this is the future. If you're in a suburban area, your schools will close and are closing. Your post office is closing. There's no money for your police and fire, partly because of redevelopment, which takes your property tax dollars and scrapes them off the top. We freeze them out a year. For the next 30 years, all of the increase in property tax dollars goes into the pockets of the redevelopment agency. You think that has an impact on your police and fire pensions, on why your parks are dead, on why your schools are closing, on why you have no street lights, on why your streets are collapsing? This is a whole life plan. Your entire economy has been collapsed on purpose. You are intended. You know what? I see most of us have gray hair. Personally, I'm glad to have lived as long as I have with the things that I have had. But you remember your grandparents could put some money in the bank towards the end of their lives and they could live on what? The interest. Now you got to have about 10 million bucks in the bank to live the life of someone who's on welfare. And I'm not joking about that. And yes, I am a liberal Democrat. My party has been hijacked. I say if you are a socialist in this country, that's fine, it's legal, but do not put Democrat under your name when you're running for office. You put socialist under your name, because the Democratic Socialists of America say that they are working through the left wing of the Democratic Party. And if you're Republicans, you probably know this. But you know what? Democrats don't know it. Now that's in my book, and I've stood up and said this. This is information that we all have to have. So this is what's happening, is that your towns are being redesigned. Money is going for smart growth, for high-density urban development. It is being used to create the hardscape for your future. It is designed to fail. If it wasn't subsidized by your property tax dollars and by EPA grants and HUD grants, it would fail. There is no way that this can be supported. That kind of retail, that much retail, and in the configuration that it is in, I am telling you as a commercial appraiser, it is going to fail. There's no way that they destroy all those mom and pops and then they build these high density, urban, transit-oriented development centers with high lease rates. You can't go in there if you're a shoe repair guy. Forget about it. How many coffee shops, how many Starbucks do you need on a block? Okay, and then, yeah, okay, have your coffee. But you know what? That's right. You're going to lose your independence. You're going to lose your ability to get a loan on your real estate, because if you're in a redevelopment area and you're told that your redevelopment agency has the power of eminent domain for 12 years and can identify your property at any time, you're already blighted. They've already identified your area as blighted. How are they getting you out of your rural and suburban areas? They're declaring them blighted. They're pulverizing the roads. They're stopping your post office service. They're saying they can't afford to support the infrastructure anymore. They are actually bulldozing whole suburbs across the country. Bulldozing suburbs. They're saying we cannot afford to maintain the services out to this area, and they are destroying them. As soon as people lose their properties by foreclosure, there's this new thing, it's called red fields to green fields. Red fields to green fields. It's in my book. What is it? Well, this is this new thing that's supposed to create sort of, everyone's going to have, a better, more vibrant life, because all of this excess commercial property that was built, a lot of it with your property tax dollars, is going to be demolished. The banks are going to be compensated. There's a $1 trillion plan to compensate banks for this foreclosed on commercial property, which they will then give to the community, the town, and the town will demolish it and create a park. Well, I don't know about you, but if you've looked at your parks lately, they are dead. Your cities are not able to maintain those areas, and this is the design, is to bring you out of those areas into the centers of cities to ride your high-speed rail, which does not exist. That money, the money for high-speed rail, is actually a boondoggle. That is a way to waste your resources, and this is United Nations Agenda 21, to waste your resources. So, you saw that logo for, the 3 circles for the symbol of sustainable development. This is the cover of the Marin County General Plan, the Marin County Comprehensive Plan, and right here in the Marin County General Plan, you'll see your 3 circles. This is very common. You'll see this, and if you don't see it, it doesn't matter. It's in your general plan already. Now, you saw those flyers on your table, those flyers that say notice, this city is a member of ICLEI. Those aren't just for you, and they're not just to take home and throw in the trash. Those are for you to make 100 of. $5, you go to a coffee place, $5, you get up early in the morning or do it in the afternoon, and you put those out on people's steps. Don't put it in their mailbox. Apparently that's federal property or something ridiculous like that. But okay, so hey, it gets worse. Yeah, it gets worse, because you know what? We're talking about regionalism. We're talking about regionalization. We're talking about erasing the boundaries between city, county, state, and federal, right? We've got our government in place for all of that. But when we look at a regional model, we have no way to impact those boards, those regional boards that are created now. Now, hey, we're right here in San Diego. You got SANDAG, which is San Diego Association of Governments, 3.3 million people, 18 cities, 4,000 square miles. In Southern California, it's SCAG. I love that, SCAG. Southern California Association of Governments, 18 million people, 6 counties, 191 cities, 38,000 square miles. These are regions. Regions. If you want to object to what they're doing now, what happened with SB 375 and AB 32 is that for the very first time, housing and transportation were joined together. If you want any transportation dollars for your city, you better agree to do whatever these regional boards tell you to do, which means you only approve development in these areas, specific areas identified by these regional boards. Now, I'm not making this up, and I sure wish I was. I really do. Here, we were talking about this before. This is Plan Bay Area. They call it your plan, your choice, your voice. That is, well, I can't say what I think it is. The only thing that's yours is you pay for it, and it's imposed on you. This is smart growth. You are told where it has to be. Your city is told if you want transportation dollars, you will build. You will build smart growth. You will only approve smart growth. You will only approve smart growth. That is huge. That's very powerful information. Now, this is even worse because in the United States we now have 11 mega regions. There's a Southern California mega region. Now, I just came from Texas. There's the Texas Triangle, which has 101 counties in it, and I think it's 17 million people. Here in Southern California, we have this mega region. It's 10 counties, 25 million people, 62,000 square miles. You think you're going to have an impact on that board? That is not representing you. This is the way that we are losing our sovereignty. We are losing the boundaries between our cities, states, counties, and our nation. And this region, so-called, it doesn't go, right on the county boundaries. They make sure they split counties because they want you to know. They want you to know that this is not going to fall in under your county, state, and local regulations. This is its own new thing. 11 mega regions. 11 mega regions. Now, they use as their premise high-speed rail. We got to get people out of their cars. We got to get them into high-speed rail. Chicago is the biggest hub in the nation. 9 states are served by Chicago under this plan. I don't know what they've been drinking in Chicago. That's a heck of a place, right?
Dark stuff.
Yeah, the dark stuff. Okay, so guess what? In the Southern California mega region, it is Southern California and Nevada. It goes from the Mexican border to Santa Barbara and east to Las Vegas. They terrorize you with plans. They say that you will have inflated population. They're talking about huge population. Now, I've been going all around the U.S. and talking to people. I would love to be talking to more young people, but most of the people I see look like me. We're not having any kids anymore. And by 2050, I'd say probably most of us are going to be playing a harp. So, where are all these people supposed to be coming from? Now, you might say, okay, I can imagine where they're coming from. We got this little porous border issue. But we're talking about something bigger than that. We're not talking about real people. We're talking about a reason to create these plans. This is not real. This is being imposed on you. You are being terrorized by artificial population increase figures that will justify this loss of your sovereignty. Livable communities, sustainable communities, community partnerships, this is all EU. Land should not be used by individuals. It should be controlled by the public, the public, the public, your government. This is the United Nations plan. If you've got doubts about communitarianism, look no further than the Kelo decision of 2005. Your Supreme Court determined that public use, which is to be compensated under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, eminent domain, the right of the king to take your property for a public use. Public use has now been redefined as anything that makes your city a little more money than whoever was there before. That's the new public use. Corporatocracy, you bet. Greater good is whatever we say it is. Now, you got to get this book. You can get it for free on my website. Download it. It's called Redevelopment, the Unknown Government. Redevelopment, the Unknown Government. Just go on my website, which if you can bear to type, Democrats Against UN Agenda 21.
How many are there?
Democrats against UNAgenda21.com, and you go to my source page, you can just download this. We're talking about public-private partnerships, isn't that right? Public-private partnerships, that's a corporatocracy, that's ownership. Ownership of your government by big mega corporations. This is control of the populations through, well, because they know, as I said, that revolution is bad for business. Okay? So it's designed to fail. And why? Because they want you to lose everything you have, so you'll be willing to move into those smart jails by your non-existent train. That's right. Yes, this is designed to fail. So I want to tell you, the wildlands is true, and unfortunately it's even worse because the Delta Smelt decision, which just came down a couple days ago, they went to the feds, the federal court for that decision, and they lost. The people of the San Joaquin Valley lost that case. That is all over with now. Okay? The Delta Smelt rules. Now, this is related. Remember I told you about Growing Smart, a legislative guidebook. They got an executive summary, which I read because I'm an executive. And it says in here, now this, I don't know about you, but this made the hair on my arms stand up. This is an instruction to your government. This book is an instruction book, a guidebook, a blueprint to your government officials. And it says, one thing it says is that, well, part of the process of imposing smart growth is to